Overseer Mandrek Voltaine stood on the command dais of the Zeltharian flagship Herald of Dominion. Through the wraparound viewport, Earth loomed large and serene, its swirling white clouds belying the technological threat the Overseer fully expected to be trivial. As far as the Zeltharians were concerned, they'd conquered more than 40 systems in the past century. This would be their 41st, and likely the easiest. Overseer said Intelligence Officer Rala Vey as she dipped a plated crest in deference. Initial scans confirm minimal orbital defenses, just scattered satellites, most aimed at communications and weather monitoring. Voltaine let out a scoffing laugh that vibrated his double larynx. Humans, a species that only recently ventured into their own orbit. Doubtless they've no real shield technology. Prepare the landing craft. We will show them the might of the Zeltharian hegemony. Rala transmitted a pre-recorded ultimatum on all open frequencies: submit or be annihilated. In the background, the Zeltharian invasion fleet, composed of 60 warships, deployed smaller corvettes and frigates in a wide net around Earth, each with enough firepower to demolish entire cities. To the Overseer's mild surprise, a response arrived almost immediately: a single video feed from a United Earth Assembly outpost in Geneva. A stern-faced woman in crisp uniform spoke calmly, flanked by other officials. "I am Counselor Naomi Reeves of the UEA. We have received your demands. We do not wish conflict, but we will defend ourselves if threatened." A flicker of amusement passed Voltaine's pale eyes. A bold stance from a race so clearly outmatched. Without waiting for further exchange, he cut the feed, certain there was nothing the humans could say or do to shift the tides of conquest. Within minutes, hundreds of Zeltharian drop pods streaked through Earth's atmosphere. Each pod carried shock troopers clad in segmented armor, armed with energy lances and personal shields. They aimed for key strategic targets across the globe: major cities, power grids, and supposed command bunkers. On the surface, local Earth forces scrambled. Tanks rumbled out of hidden garrisons and jets took to the skies. To the Zeltharian troopers, these vehicles might as well have been relics. Their scanning software identified ballistic cannons, some missiles nothing that could reasonably threaten advanced shield plating. Commander Aralis Dryan, leading the first ground wave near the region humans called Kestrel Ridge, stepped onto the soil with a confident sneer. "This is the best they have? Antiquated armor and combustible engines. Pathetic." Dryan's confidence cracked the instant he heard a thunderous roar echo across the ridge. A line of human infantry opened fire, not with typical assault rifles but with rotary cannons belching out 5,000 rounds per minute of high-velocity tungsten shells. The troopers' personal shields flared wildly under the onslaught. To the Zeltharians' shock, these slugs punched clean through weak points in their armor. Sparks and shredded plating flew as half their forward rank collapsed. Dryan's eyes went wide. He'd rarely seen ballistic tech perform with such devastating force. He snarled into his comm, "Deploy energy barriers. Regroup." High above Kestrel Ridge, a Zeltharian gunship hovered in a defensive pattern, scanning for large targets to bombard. Its pilot locked onto a human mechanized column moving along a dirt road. Just as the pilot prepared to unleash plasma cannons, massive kinetic projectiles slammed into its hull. Somewhere on the ground, a hidden heavy railgun had fired, accelerating tungsten penetrators to hypersonic velocities. The gunship's shields, already flickering from mysterious interference, buckled. A single slug tore straight through the vessel's central bulkhead, sending it spiraling into the canyon below. On the flagship Herald of Dominion, Overseer Voltaine and his bridge crew witnessed the feed cutting out in real time. Rala Vey's voice quivered. "Overseer, the humans appear to be using advanced kinetic weapons. Our intel indicated they were far behind in energy technology, but kinesis is another matter." Voltaine gritted his mandibles. "So be it. They've discovered a means to accelerate mass at lethal speeds. We are still far superior. Scramble the Stormbringer squadron. Let them see the might of our plasma bombardment." Even as he spoke, new alarms blared. Earth-based hackers were probing the Zeltharian communications network. Holoscreens flickered with partial static. The Overseer's claws raked the arm of his seat. Rala, lock down all comm channels. They can't possibly break our quantum encryption. Yes, Overseer, she replied, but her eyes darted nervously over streams of alien glyphs filling her console. I'm detecting infiltration at the sublayer. It seems targeted at our shield frequency data. Voltaine rose from his station, fury boiling. Impossible. Quash that infiltration. Focus fire on their railgun emplacements. We'll crush this so-called resistance before it starts. Meanwhile, Commander Dryan regrouped her battered troopers. Another wave of Zeltharians landed, seeking to overrun the human defensive line. This time they employed portable plasma mortars, intending to saturate the ridge. But the humans had prepared cunning trenches and bunkers. They waited for the right moment, then unleashed an interlocking barrage of heavier rotary cannons and artillery. Dryan heard the shriek of high-caliber shells whining overhead before they tore through her lines. A single detachment of Earth soldiers advanced from behind a rocky outcrop. She saw them briefly through binoculars. They wore advanced exoskeleton suits, each soldier wielding a multi-barrel weapon. 5,000 rounds per minute. The screaming hail of tungsten spat out in lethal arcs, scything through any Zeltharian who dared stand upright. Dryan hissed. Fallback pushed them into open ground, but open ground proved equally perilous. The humans had booby traps waiting, from anti-personnel mines to hidden machine gun nests. Her troopers found no safe harbor. High in orbit, the Herald of Dominion and sister ships attempted to provide air support for ground forces. However, the infiltration of Zeltharian systems worsened. The alien cruisers found their targeting solutions scrambled by malicious code that rerouted sensor data. Overseer, we've lost contact with the Vanguard, Spear and Ensign reported. They were preparing a plasma strike on North America when their reactor core overloaded. Voltaine's spines bristled. Are you telling me the humans sabotaged one of our capital ships remotely? They must have exploited weaknesses we weren't aware of, Rala admitted, her crest flattening in shame. I fear they're able to feed false data into our shield harmonics. Our defenses are fluctuating across the entire fleet. In an underground command center beneath the Colorado Rockies, Major Elena Kincaid of the United Earth Assembly surveyed holographic feeds. A grin tugged at her lips. Phase 2 is operational. We've neutralized or misdirected at least half of their orbital support, she said to Colonel Song Jae-min, who was overseeing the cyber warfare operation. Song nodded. We're disseminating shield sabotage viruses to all Zeltharian vessels. They overlooked our quantum networking capabilities. Kincaid turned to another console where a group of artillery specialists managed the heavy railguns. She nodded. Keep up the pressure. Target any craft that tries to bombard our cities. Their timing was clinical. The moment a Zeltharian ship charged its plasma cannons, a railgun slug howled skyward, disabling or outright destroying the would-be attacker. The Zeltharians deployed their elite Stormbringer fighters in the skies above Europe, hoping to punch through Earth's defenses. Swift, agile, and armed with hyper-advanced beam weaponry, the fighters initially performed well until human jets scrambled. At first glance, Earth's jets appeared conventional, but once the dogfight commenced, the jet's stealth systems came online, vanishing from Zeltharian radar. Mach-speed missiles homed in on the intruders. One Stormbringer pilot reported in panic, I can't lock onto them, there's too much jamming. A hail of 30mm shells shredded the fighter's fuselage. Another pilot tried to retreat only to be tailgated by a supersonic missile that split the alien craft in half. Within minutes, the Stormbringer squadron was in tatters. Overseer Voltaine watched, aghast, as fiery debris rained down on farmland below. Frantic to regain control, Voltaine demanded a direct link to the Zeltharian High Command from orbit. But at that moment, the main holo display flashed with a bizarre symbol letters from an Earth script. To the overseer of the Zaltharian hegemony, we told you we would defend ourselves. Voltaine slammed a fist on the console, rattling his crystalline command rod. They have the gall to hack my personal channel. Enough games. Charge the main disruptor, target their largest city, show them what a real weapon does. Rala's voice cracked. We can't. Our disruptor sequence is locked down. They rewrote the activation codes. Stunned silence gripped the bridge. Then a mocking beep signaled an open comm line from Earth. A new voice spoke, calm and resonant. Overseer Voltaine, I am Colonel Song J. Min. You might want to reconsider an orbital strike. It could go very poorly for you. Commander Dryan's ground assault found itself pinned at Kestrel Ridge. Casualties soared as the humans cycled in fresh troops wearing advanced exosuits, while the troopers' energy lances still cut down some humans who ventured too close. Earth's blistering ballistic onslaught proved overwhelming. Falling back to a rocky canyon, Dryan regrouped with the surviving squads. She attempted to call for air evacuation, only to receive static. HQ, do you read? We request immediate evac any craft. HQ, respond. No reply. The canyon's natural formations plus human jamming technology sealed their fate. Then came the final blow, an ominous whistling overhead. Earth's artillery hammered the canyon with airburst shells. Deafening booms shattered rock, collapsed tunnels, and left the remaining Zaltharians forced to surrender or be buried alive. Hovering in orbit, the Herald of Dominion was battered by continuous railgun salvos. Each time the flagship tried to maneuver for a better position, saboteur viruses misdirected thrusters or locked navigation inputs. Several escort ships drifted aimlessly, jammed or powerless. Seething with rage, Overseer Voltaine finally addressed the entire fleet. All vessels capable of sublight movement form a perimeter. We must hold them at bay until we can restore FTL drives. Then we retreat and return with a larger armada. But the sabotage ran too deep. Rala's console beeped warnings the FTL cores wouldn't start. The infiltration had targeted jump matrices, rendering them inert. Voltaine's 4 lungs seized. They've cut off our escape. They plan to break us entirely. Suddenly, a transmission appeared on the battered flagship's forward screen. Counselor Naomi Reeves, flanked by Major Elena Kincaid. Overseer Voltaine Reeves began, her tone diplomatic. We offer you a single chance to stand down. Your ground forces are scattered, your fleet is compromised, and your escape routes are neutralized. Let us spare further bloodshed. Spare us, Voltaine snarled. We are the Zaltharian hegemony. We do not cower before primitives. Kincaid's gaze hardened. Primitives. You launched unprovoked aggression. You threatened genocide. Now you reap what you sow. Reeves raised a hand in a more tempered gesture. Overseer, Earth does not desire your annihilation. Surrender and we'll help you repair enough systems to leave in peace. Even as Reeves spoke, new alarms howled across the Zaltharian flagship. A volley of railgun rounds slammed into the Herald of Dominion's prow, crippling the forward shield generator. The deck lurched, sending crew members tumbling. Rala's voice turned desperate. Overseer, we cannot endure many more hits. Our central power core is exposed. Static crackled on the overhead speakers. A human soldier's voice, presumably broadcasting to the entire orbit, stated, "This is Major Kincaid to all Zaltharian forces. Lay down your arms, or the next salvo will carve through your flagship's reactor." Voltaine stared at Rala, then at the flickering screens. Each breath he took felt heavier than the last. Commander Dryan, battered and bleeding on the surface, signaled in. Overseer, the humans have captured my entire detachment. They're providing medical aid to the wounded, but they demand unconditional surrender. That final report hollowed out Voltaine's chest. The unstoppable hegemony, undone by cunning defenses and ballistic ingenuity. Swallowing the bitter taste of defeat, he opened a channel to Earth. His next words were a rasp: "We will stand down. Order all Zeltharian units to cease hostilities." A momentary silence lingered. Then Counselor Reeves replied, "Very well. Our forces will cease fire as well. Prepare to be boarded by technical teams who will assist in stabilizing your flagship's reactor." Across the planet, human squads moved in to disarm scattered Zeltharian survivors. Some troopers had expected merciless slaughter, but found themselves processed through organized POW protocols. Medics treated plasma burns. Engineers salvaged parts from crashed Zeltharian craft. At Kestrel Ridge, the place that had become a symbol of Earth's defiance, the smoke cleared to reveal lines of battered alien troopers. Commander Dryan knelt in the dust, her ornate helmet dented. Nearby, Earth soldiers removed power cells from captured weapons, ensuring there was no last-ditch retaliation. One exosuit-clad soldier, a staff sergeant named Hannah Lasky, turned to Dryan. "We're not monsters," she said, voice modulated through her suit speaker. "You'll be sent home, eventually. Just remember who bested you here." Back on the Herald of Dominion, technical experts from Earth accompanied by armed escorts worked side by side with Zeltharian crew to prevent meltdown and restore minimal jump capability. Overseer Voltaine lurked at the edge of the main corridor, watching a human engineer splice cables that the sabotage had scrambled. In quiet wonder, he realized that these primitives showed not only savage skill in battle but also a willingness to spare their defeated foe. Their capacity for advanced ballistic warfare, cunning strategy, and then unexpected mercy left him uneasy and grudgingly respectful. Rala approached, her crest drooping. "Overseer, I have collated the official defeat report for the High Council. Will you add a statement before we transmit it upon our return?" Voltaine sighed. "Yes. Let it say we faced an adversary far more prepared than any we have encountered. Let it warn them that Earth is no soft target." On a shared frequency, Colonel Song Jae-min appeared, addressing Overseer Voltaine directly. "Our immediate conflict is over. Once you've repaired your FTL, we expect you to leave peacefully." Voltaine's anger still simmered, but he kept his composure. "You show remarkable restraint in not finishing us off." Song shrugged. "We didn't seek war, Overseer. We've spent years preparing for possible hostile contact just as a precaution. The fact you arrived with guns blazing left us no choice but to fight back." Voltaine glanced at a display showing Kestrel Ridge, where the 5,000 rounds per minute rotary cannons had decimated his ground forces. A chill coursed through him. "You Earthlings wage war in a manner we failed to anticipate." Gradually, the Zeltharian fleet regrouped in a stable orbit, limping along with patchwork repairs. Of the 60 warships that arrived, nearly half were inoperable, either left behind or stripped for parts. Earth allowed the remaining ships to align in an exit corridor beyond Luna's orbit. Counselor Reeves joined the final communication, expression impassive but not entirely cold. "You may depart, Overseer. Remember this day. The next time you deem a world primitive." She paused, letting the implication hang. Voltaine gave a curt nod, face taut with residual anger and grudging respect. "We will not soon forget your ingenuity or your ferocity." One by one, Zeltharian ships blinked into faster-than-light transit, carrying wounded pride and a dire warning for their High Council. On the ground, Earth's global networks buzzed with celebration and relief. The casualty lists, while saddening, were fewer than they might have been under a less prepared planet. At the hidden railgun battery in the Rockies, Major Elena Kincaid oversaw the stand-down order. Crews began cooling the rails from the scorching punishment of repeated firings. "We did it," she murmured. "We held them off and forced them to yield." Song Jae-min's voice came over the secure channel. "Congratulations, Major." But we can't rest too easy. The galaxy won't ignore this. Our deception is blown wide open, everyone will know we're not backward pushovers. She nodded, gaze fixed on Earth's horizon. Then we'd best keep building, keep developing. If another threat comes, we'll be ready. Commander Dryan, along with her troopers, found themselves in makeshift POW camps near the crash sites. The humans, despite victorious fervor, took pains to supply them with water, medical attention, and even bilingual data pads for communication. A human guard, adjusting the strap on her ballistic rifle, walked past and muttered, "Ha, you guys act so tough, but one taste of 5,000 RPM tungsten and you folded." Dryan stared blankly, unsure how to reply. She recalled the savage roar of those rotary cannons, ripping apart shielded troopers in a horrifying blur. If anything was clear, it was that her empire's illusions of unassailable power had been shattered. Far from the POW sites, quiet celebrations took place in command bunkers and field stations. Generals, majors, and colonels exchanged weary handshakes. Mechanized suits were lined up for maintenance, their operators exhausted but proud. Throughout the UEA network, leaders commended the synergy of cyber warfare, railgun artillery, and high-rate ballistic weaponry that had collectively neutralized an advanced alien threat. Earth had always been considered chaotic, with too many independent nations to unify easily, yet in the face of existential danger, humanity's hidden strengths had crystallized into a single unstoppable force. In orbit, the final Zeltharian cruiser flashed into FTL, leaving Earth's gravitational well behind. The sky was quiet again, but the echoes of battle lingered. Satellite arrays began folding back into normal operational modes, weather stations resumed reading wind currents, while disguised missile pods retracted into farmland silos. Counselor Naomi Reeves stood atop a secure airstrip overlooking Kestrel Ridge in the distance. She lifted a comm to speak to Colonel Song and Major Kincaid. "We've survived once more thanks to extensive preparation and unwavering determination. But we must be mindful news of this victory will travel the stars." Major Kincaid nodded from the far end of the line. "Then let them come. We've shown the galaxy that if they aim to conquer Earth, they'll find themselves facing more than they bargained for." Reeves allowed herself a small, proud smile. "Indeed, we are not warlike by nature, but we will stand our ground, always." A gentle wind brushed the smoldering plains below. Earth's defenders began the long process of rebuilding, burying the fallen and improving their already formidable arsenal. For if there was one lesson to be etched into every alien aggressor's mind, it was that humanity was never truly defenseless, and any empire bold enough to try would soon learn that 5,000 rounds per minute of tungsten and heavy railgun fire could shatter the illusion of easy conquest in an instant.